In today's Kitchen Think, when moms blog, corporate America listens. The purchasing power of today's moms is gaining strength as more and more moms spread the word by blogging. And you can blog too on our website, viewfromthebay.com. Well, let's face it, back to school is stressful. Clothes, school supplies, other expenses are adding up and financially draining the family's budget sometimes.
Absolutely.
Well, our next guest says it's possible to curb back to school spending without the guilt. Please welcome back the founder and owner of the Financial Recovery Institute, financial consultant, Karen McCall. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming.
Hello.
Now, how much pressure is being put on moms to spend for back to school?
Well, we just saw the segment that said back to school supplies $100
per kid.
Per kid. Okay, so that's just the start. Then you have back to school clothes. You have all of the pressures from the schools, because when our kids were in school, we didn't have to worry about back to school expenses, but with the budget cuts in the schools, there's so much pressure. So it's just coming at us from every direction.
And the advertisers don't make it any easier for the parents because they target the children. They know how to really get the kids feeling like, I've got to have this new thing that's out there.
Absolutely, and they'll instill the feeling that you're going to be less than if you don't have it.
Right, exactly.
And that's really something that parents have to really help their kids with.
So how much are mothers coping with the guilt? I mean, how are they dealing with it? How much guilt do they have?
Well, I think that that's one of the things that can be from their childhood. For example, you know, in my own experience, I had a lot of deprivation in my childhood. You know, I came from a very poor family. And so when I grew up, before I resolved that issue, I could not tolerate saying no to my kids about anything.
Right.
And so that was something that really carried over, that wasn't necessarily good for my family, but it was unresolved issues from the past. And so, you know, over the years, I had to come to terms with what's really good for my kids. And having everything isn't necessarily good.
How do you communicate that to the kid, though, you know, so the kid will accept it?
Yes, I think one of the things that's really important is that we talk with our kids and we find out what their needs are. And we find out, and we have to really communicate, because they may say, well, I need this because they've gotten the pressure from the advertisers or whatever. And so if you talk to them, well, what's important about that? What would that mean to you? And, you know, really get them involved. It can be really fun.
Well, you have tips on surviving back to school spending, and the first one is look honestly at your situation.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is that parents have to have control of the situation. When you see kids out of control, you see parents out of control. So the first thing is, if the parents, whether you're a single parent, whether you're separated or whatever, is that the parents get together and they talk about what are the resources for the family in terms of all of the needs for back to school. And you make a list of all of those needs, and then you come up with a plan and you assign numbers. You know, what do you think it's going to cost? And is that going to fit into the family budget? And if it isn't, are people going to pull out their credit cards, or are they going to say, you know, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to really address what's important to you, and we're going to make it fun and try to find a way to meet these needs in a way that costs less or no money. Your show yesterday showed clothes from Target to
Gap.
The Gap,
yeah, right.
you know, I mean, it showed the whole gamut, and it showed adorable outfits, and it's the same kind of thing. You know, if your kids are young, then you're not necessarily going to talk numbers with them, but you're going to take them to Target instead of Nordstrom's if that's where your budget's going to fit in.
Right.
But if your kids are older, you want to communicate, and you want to give them an opportunity so that they can feel empowered. You know, if you empower kids by letting them make strong choices, it's just the most fantastic thing we can do for our kids.
So you basically covered tips 1 and 2. Look honestly at the situation and determine what your needs are, you said, for back to school expenses.
Right, and we have to really work with kids in helping them focus and learn the difference between wants and needs.
Right, gotcha. And number 3, ask your kids about what's important to them.
Same thing. We kind of talked about it. You know, because there may be certain trends, or they may have seen what their friends are getting, and so they're feeling some pressure. And is that something they really want, or do they think they want it? So again, it's communicating with them and letting them know, okay, you can have this, or you could have 3 of this, you know, and just kind of working with them.
Right. You say we should also plan a successful shopping trip.
Absolutely imperative. And so if kids know what the guidelines are, you can make it a fun thing. You know what, we have this much to spend. Let's see how much we can get for this. So for example, you know, the show on Staples, okay, if they don't have $100 to spend per kid, you each have $25. Let's see what we can do with that $25. Bring the kids into the situation and make it fun for them.
The next tip, though, is a tough one for some parents, I would imagine. That is, don't give in to the pressure. I know when my kids were young, you know, when they really, really wanted something, I was like you. I didn't want to feel like I was depriving them. So how do you
Right.
not give in to the pressure?
Right. Well, you know, that's where we have to kind of resolve our own issues and really have that kind of clear for us first, and then ask the question, do we think this is good for our kids? And if we don't, it's our job as parents to say, you know, if I thought it was good for you, I would do it. We would figure out a way to do it. But I don't think it's good for you. And so parents have to also look at, are they feeling competitive with other parents in terms of the peer pressure? And, you know, gee, other parents are doing it. So, you know, you really, parents have to look at their own guilt. And one of the ways they can do that is if they're focused on their own needs. You know, it's like, everybody's needs need to be considered when they're looking at their family budgets.
Yeah, but the tendency is that parents overspend on their kids and they don't spend anything on themselves. How can we find that balance?
That's a really, really key thing. You know, it's the old oxygen mask story, you know. And for moms, you know, with all of the pressure of back to school, I called my daughter last night. I have 2 daughters, and I called them both. And one daughter who has 3 kids and was under a lot of pressure, her son's starting high school tomorrow, and she said, Mom, the best advice is tell him not to have kids. You know? But she was, of course, teasing.
Kidding, of course,
but
right.
that's how much pressure she was under, you know, with the kids starting school this week. And so, you know, I think the important thing is that parents are looking at their own time, their own energy, their own money, and they make sure that everybody's needs in the family are being taken care of.
Hey, just in case you missed the oxygen mask reference, when you get on a plane, what do they say? Put your own mask on first, then put it on the child.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have to preserve our time, energy, and our own money.
Great
as
advice.
well.
Karen McCall from the Financial Recovery Institute, thanks so much for being here.
You're
Thanks a lot.
welcome.
We'll see you back here
Good.
soon.
Have a happy back to school.
Thanks so much.
Okay, fashion for a cause, dressed to impress while helping your community. Find out how next. And yummy, tasty chocolate comes to the East Bay. Tune in tomorrow to find out where.
Fairly detailed mold, then this nice